Hello everyone, so in this video we will learn how to create Freshbook invoices for new WooCommerce orders automatically. So the idea is that if a new order is made in WooCommerce, it will automatically create an invoice in Freshbooks. But the issue here is there is no direct connection between WooCommerce and Freshbooks. So that is why we will be using an integration and automation software called as Pabbly Connect that integrates WooCommerce and Freshbooks. The best part of using Pabbly Connect is a person without any technical background can perform this integration easily. Now before I show you the steps, how about we begin with a real-time example. Okay, so this is my WooCommerce product page. As you can see, the product is a super smartwatch and this is my Freshbook account. So the idea is that if a purchase is made in this particular WooCommerce store, the data of that particular transaction will be created as an invoice in Freshbooks. So we will check once this product is purchased whether we have an invoice of the same in Freshbooks. So let's make the purchase. So let me just straight away click on add to cart. Okay, then let me just straight away click on proceed to checkout. Okay, so the purchase is being made by a person called as 𝗪𝗆𝗆𝗃. The first name is Thompson, the last name is Grease. Then we have the company name, okay, and then we have the country as India. This is the street address, the residential address, and the pin code, the phone number, and as you can see, this is the email address, tom123@gmail.com. So Tom is or Thompson Grease is going to make a purchase by clicking on place order. Okay, so just give it 1 or 2 seconds. Okay, so the order has been made by a person called as Thompson Grease with the email address tom123@gmail.com. So let's have a look. Let's have a look in Freshbooks. Do we have an invoice related to this transaction? So let me just straight away click on invoices. Okay, so let me just once again refresh this. Okay, so as you can see, we do have the invoice of Thompson Grease. So you must be thinking, how did I do it? How did I manage to send the data from WooCommerce to Freshbooks? So basically, here we have used an integration and automation software called as Pabbly Connect that integrates WooCommerce and Freshbooks. So before we begin, let me just give you a small perspective. So basically, this is how the integration will look like. First of all, you are going to integrate WooCommerce and Pabbly Connect, and this can be done by introducing the webhook URL. You are going to copy the webhook URL from Pabbly Connect and paste it into WooCommerce. Now in the second step, what we are going to do here is we are going to collect the test submission data, or basically a dummy order placed in WooCommerce in Pabbly Connect. Now in the third step, we are going to use the same data to create a new invoice in Freshbooks. Now this may look like this integration is very easy, but the truth is we have to go with two assumptions here. The first assumption is the client or the person who has made an order in WooCommerce is present in Freshbooks. Now the second assumption is the person who has made the order in WooCommerce is absent in Freshbooks. So we will deal with that thoroughly. Let me just show you how it's done. Okay, so to begin the process, in the new tab, just type pabbly.com, 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 press enter. Okay, so this is the website of pabbly.com. All you have to do is just click on sign up for free. Here you can build your own account in just 2 minutes. In my case, I have already built an account, so let me just straight away sign in. Okay, so this is the app section of Pabbly. Let me just scroll down and here you will find connect. Just click on access now. Okay, so at the top right corner, you will find a button, create workflow. Click this. A dialog box appears in front of you. It is asking you to give a name to this workflow. I'm going to give it as WooCommerce to Freshbooks. Of course, you can give any name according to your choice. It's totally on you. WooCommerce to Freshbooks. Simply just click on create. So when you click on create, you will find two windows, the trigger window as well as the action window. Now we want to send the data from WooCommerce. So let me just select the app as WooCommerce. WooCommerce it is. Now in the trigger event, how about we make it as order updated? Okay, so if you are new to Pabbly Connect, you are still wondering, or you're wondering that why we are keeping the trigger event as new order updated. Okay, why not new order created? So the reason is, let me just straight away take you to WooCommerce. Okay, so let me just take you to the dashboard and let me just have a look at the orders that has been made. Okay, so let's have a look at the orders. So the idea is that there can be many different types of orders made. Let me just show you. So these are the orders. Okay, so this was the recent one made by a person called as Thompson Grease. So as you can see, the default status, it is showing it as processing. Okay, so let's explore that. Okay, so as you can see, okay, the status it is showing as processing, but we do have other status like pending payment, on hold, completed, cancelled, refund, failed, draft. So other than processing, we do have a ton of order status, but we only want those data in which the payment has been made. The payment process has been done. We don't want those data when the status is kept on hold or cancelled, refund or failed or even draft. So to get the data in which the order status is made as processing, we have to make sure the trigger event is order updated. We have selected it. Okay, so these are the steps we have to follow to integrate WooCommerce to Pabbly Connect. So let's begin. So first of all, we have to go to WooCommerce and then click on settings. So let me just go to WooCommerce. Okay, and let me just straight away open settings in a new tab. And after that, what we have to do, we have to go to the advanced tab and then click on Webhooks. So let me just go to the advanced tab. Okay, and let me just straight away click on Webhooks. Okay, after that, we have to click on add Webhooks. So let me just click on add Webhooks. Okay, after that, then a webhook data box appears and then we have to give a name. Okay, that's pretty easy. Okay, so as you can see, webhook data box has appeared and we have to give a name. So I'm planning to give it as something like Freshbooks because this integration will be on Freshbooks. Okay, Freshbooks it is. Of course, you can give any name. It's totally on you. And I presume that we have to change the status as active. Okay, so we are going to change the status as active. Okay, from disabled to active. Now we have to select the topic as probably order updated. Yes, we have to select the topic as order updated. Order updated. Okay, then we have it. Then we have to mention the delivery URL. So this is the delivery URL. I'm just going to copy this. Okay, and I'm going to paste it here. Okay, so we have entered the delivery URL. The secret will remain empty. The API version will remain same as WP REST API integration v3. Let me just straight away click on save webhook. Okay, so it is showing the webhook has been updated successfully and Pabbly Connect will receive a data, yes, the value of the webhook ID. You can just ignore it and once again, just click on recapture webhook response. So what we are going to do here is we are going to make a dummy purchase. Okay, so when the dummy purchase is made, since Pabbly Connect is integrated with the WooCommerce, the data will be collected here. Okay, so now before we create a new order, now there is a few things that I have to mention. First of all, we have to make two assumptions here. The first assumption is that the order is made by a customer that is already a client in Freshbook. And the second assumption is the client is totally new. Okay, I repeat, there are going to be two assumptions here. The first assumption is there is a client who is already present in Freshbook. Okay, and the second assumption is the client is totally new. Okay, so we are going to work with the first assumption. The client is already present in Freshbook. So once the client is already present in Freshbooks, all we have to do is just create an invoice for him. If the client is not present in Freshbook, then we have to create a client first and then create an invoice. Okay, so I hope it is getting clear. We have to make two assumptions. So we are going to work with the first assumption. The first assumption is the client is already present in Freshbooks. So what I'm going to do here is we are going to create one more order in WooCommerce, and this time the same guy, that is Thomson Grease, is going to make the purchase. Okay, so this is the detail of Thomson Grease. So you already know Thomson Grease is already present as a client in Freshbooks. So what I'm going to do here is we are going to make one more dummy purchase. Okay, so let me just straight away go to the dashboard. Okay, and after that we are going to the products and then we are going to make a purchase. So let me just go to the products, all products, and this time we are going to make a purchase of this beautiful product, beautiful ink pen. So this is the product. Let me just open this in a new tab. Okay, remember this, we are going to make a purchase by a guy called as Thomson Grease. Now Thomson Grease is already present as a client in Freshbooks. Okay, so beautiful pen it is. Let me just click on add to cart. So this is the pen and this is worth 450 rupees. Let me just click on proceed to checkout. Okay, so as you can see, it is already showing the pre-filled details of Thomson Grease. So technically we don't have to do anything. Okay, let me just straight away click on place order. Okay, so the order has been made by a person called as 𝗪𝗆𝗃 who is already present as a client in FreshBooks. So let's have a look. Did Pabbly Connect capture the details of this particular order made by a person called as 𝗪𝗆𝗃 with the email address tom123@gmail.com? Remember this is an important detail, tom123@gmail.com. So let's have a look. Okay, yes, we do have the details of 𝗪𝗆𝗃. Okay, we have the first name, that is Thompson. We have the last name as Grease. This is the company name. This is the address. This is the address line 2 and all rest of the details. And at last we have the billing email, okay, and the billing phone number. Now the important thing that we have to see here is the order status. It is showing processing. Okay, now we only have to send the data when the status it is showing it as processing. As I mentioned earlier, there are many other statuses like refund, data, draft, cancelled, order not made. So we have this status that is processing. Now we have to perfectly make it clear that the data should be only sent to FreshBooks when the status is kept as processing. So that is why we are going to establish a filter. The filter will allow only those data where the status is processing. If the status is refund, the data won't flow. If the status is cancelled, the data won't flow. So basically, we have to send the data when the status is showing it as processing. That is why we are going to establish the filter. So in the action window, we are going to select the app as filter. Filter by Pabbly, this one. Okay, so now in the select label, first of all, I'm just going to mention status. Okay, so let's have a look. Do we have a status? Okay, status as processing is equal to processing. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to straight away copy this. Okay, and I'm just going to paste it here. The status processing is equal to processing. Okay, so imagine this. If the status is shown as cancelled equal to processing, which is not true, it won't send the data. If imagine this, if the status is kept as refund equal to processing, the data won't flow. At present, the status is equal to processing. That is actually true. So when I click on save and send test request, it will definitely show the status or the condition as true because it is true. Processing is equal to processing. Okay, so the status it is showing success, the message, the condition is true. Excellent. So what's next? So now we actually have to work with an element called as time. Okay, so this is because as you can see, this was the time it was created and it's looking really clumsy. Okay, I really don't understand what's the time or the date. So we actually have to make it into a human readable format, and this is how you do it. You introduce one more action window by clicking on the plus button. Okay, so now in the action window, we are going to select datetime formatter. Datetime formatter it is. Now in the action event, how about we make it as format date only? Simply just click on connect. Okay, so now we have to map the date. Now if you know this is the date. Okay, this is the clumsy date that we don't want. So we click here. Okay, we click here, we click here, and we are going to map the date. So this is the date. Okay, now it is asking to which format. Now the format that we are interested in is a very simple human readable one. Okay, so this is the format that we are interested in. Now remember this. Okay, we actually have to convert this into this format, that is year, month and day format, because FreshBooks demand this particular format. Okay, year, month and day format. So that is why I'm just going to convert this into year, month and day format. So at this point, just click on save and send test request to get our fresh format. Okay, so as you can see, this is the format. We have changed the date from this clumsy format into this human readable one. Okay, the real reason is FreshBooks actually demands that the date of the creation should be in this particular format, that is year, month and day. Okay, so we have worked with time. Okay, we have also established a small filter that will allow only those cases where the status is processing. Okay, so we have worked with three things. Now we have to apply routers. Okay, so why routers? Now before we apply a router, we actually have to tell the system that this person, that is 𝗪𝗆𝗃, already exists in FreshBooks. We know that 𝗪𝗆𝗃 exists in FreshBooks, but the system doesn't know that. So we have to make sure that the system knows that 𝗪𝗆𝗃 exists in FreshBooks. So what we are going to do here is we are going to introduce FreshBooks. FreshBooks it is. Now in the action event, how about we make it as get a client or search for a client. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, update search client customer. Okay, this is the one. We click here and simply just click on connect. We are going with a new connection. Just click on connect with FreshBooks. Okay, Pabbly Connect, I suppose, has authorized the connection. Excellent. So by default, it is showing the account name as Pabbly. Okay, so as you can see, the account name is Pabbly. This is because the name of the account is Pabbly. As you can see, there is a small Pabbly. You can see this is the account name. Okay, so that is why it is reflecting here as Pabbly. Now coming to the most important part, that is the email. Now email will be the source of our search. So you're obviously thinking why email is the source of search, because there is no such thing as two same emails. All emails are unique. We can have same numbers, we can have the same phone numbers, we can have the same name, but we cannot have the same emails. All emails are unique. So that is why we are going to make sure that email is our source of search. Now the email of that guy was Tom. Okay, Thomson Grease has this email, that is Tom or something, tom123@gmail.com. Okay, so we are going to search that whether Tom123 is present in FreshBooks or not. So we click here, and we are going to map the email. The email is tom123@gmail.com, and we have mapped it. Now when I click on save and send test request, it will fetch me the details of Thomson Grease. Okay, because this email ID of Thomson Grease, that is tom123@gmail.com, is indeed present in FreshBooks. Okay, as you can see, tom123 and Thomson Grease is definitely present in FreshBooks. So when I click on save and send test request, it will definitely fetch some details. Okay, so these are the details we have. Okay, as you can see, Tom123, it has fetched the details. The name is Thompson, and then we have the last name. So these are the details. Okay, it has fetched all the details that is present in FreshBooks of this guy, that is Thomson Grease. So Thomson Grease is present. We know that. Now the system also knows. So what's next? So let's do one more experiment. Okay, so I'm just going to remove this email address, tom123@gmail.com, and let me just go to FreshBooks. Okay, and what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to search for a guy. Let's say John. Okay, john123@gmail.com. So this will be the source of our search in FreshBook itself. So as you can see, john123@gmail.com is not present in FreshBooks. Okay, there is no guy in FreshBook called as john123@gmail.com. So I'm just going to copy this email address. Okay, and what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to paste this email address here. Okay, now remember this, John is not present in FreshBooks. Okay, so did I copy it? Okay, let me just copy this once again. For some reason it's not allowing to paste. Okay, so let me just paste this here. Nope, let me just manually type it then. john123@gmail.com. Okay, so the idea is that when I click on save and send test request, it won't show any details. This is because john123 is not present in my FreshBook accounts. So once again, let me just click on save and send test request. Okay, so as you can see, it is showing 0, 0, 0 and some numbers. Okay, this is because john123@gmail.com is not a client in FreshBooks. So if john123@gmail.com was a client in FreshBooks, we would have got some details of John, like the first name, the last name, the address, the phone number, and all those details. It would have returned all those details. But at present, it is only showing the response result total as 0. Now this is an important thing. So I'm just going to copy this. Okay, now this is an important thing. Okay, and once again, let me just remove this and introduce our guy, that is tom123@gmail.com. Okay, so this is the email address of Thomson Grease. So we already know that this guy is already present. Okay, so as you can see, these are the details. Okay, because tom123 is definitely present. And let me just use the copied string, that is response result total. And as you can see, the response result total is 1, not 0. Okay, the response result total is 1, not 0. If the client is not present, then the response result total is 0. If the client is present, the response result total is not 0. I hope you're getting it. Okay, if the client is present, then the response result total is not 0. but if the client is not present, the response result total is 0. Okay, so using this particular data, we are going to create two different streams. And to create two different streams, that is one for if the client is already present in FreshBooks, and the second one, the client is absent in FreshBooks or doesn't present or does not exist in FreshBooks. So we are going to create two different streams. So the first stream in our routers will be the data, or the client is already present. And the second stream is the client is absent. If the client is present, all we have to do is just create an invoice for him. If the client is absent, first we create a client in FreshBooks and then we create an invoice for him. Okay, so let's start with the first one. That is, the client is already present. So we are going to introduce routers. So the routers will, as you can see from the icon itself, it is splitting the data in two different streams. One here and one here. That's the purpose of routers. It is going to split the data in two different streams. So we have the root 1 and the root 2. So we are going to rename the root 1 something like this. If the client is present in FreshBooks. Okay, FreshBooks. And let me just straight away click on update. Okay, so this is the root 1. So let me just click on set filters and actions tab. Okay, so now we have to set the filters. Now I had mentioned this earlier. Okay, if the condition was, okay, that is response result total is equal to 0, it basically means the client is absent. If the response result total is not equal to 0, that means the client is present. So what we are going to do here is, once again, I'm just going to copy this. Okay, let me just click on set filters and action. And here in the search, we are just going to mention it as response total. Okay, so this is the one, response total, that is 1. Okay, does not equal to 0. Okay, I hope you're getting it. If the response total is not equal to 0, that basically means the client is present. Okay, if the response total is not equal to 0, that means the client is absent. The client is present. If the response total is equal to 0, that means the client is absent. Okay, so that is why we have made sure the response total, which is at present is equal to 1, is not equal to 0. So when I click on save and send test request, it will definitely show the value as true or the condition as success. Let me do that. Okay, so as you can see, the status it is showing, the condition is true. Okay, success and the condition is true. So what's next? Now we already told the system that this guy is present in FreshBooks. Now we just have to give an invoice to him. So this is how you do it. You introduce one more window. Okay, so we have the app as FreshBooks. FreshBooks it is. Okay, we are going to create a new invoice. So let me just click on create invoice and simply just click on connect. Let's go with the new connection. Just click on connect with FreshBooks. Okay, so as you can see, these are the series of fields we have. So all we have to do is start mapping the details one by one. But before we do that, there is something I have to show you. As you can see, the customer email, okay, we are not going to map the customer email. So basically we are going to map the ID. Now the ID is something that I can show you, okay, from here only. So we are just going to click here. Okay, no, before that, let me just toggle this to the right. Okay, and we click here and we are just going to map the ID. Okay, so when we had searched for the client, it had already returned an ID. So let me just show you this ID. So this is the client ID. Okay, so we are going to map this particular detail here. Now let me just check, is this the correct ID? Okay, because I myself am a bit confused about this now. Okay, yeah, I think this is the correct ID. Yes, we do have the correct ID. So this is the correct ID. Okay, so we are going to map this detail here. Okay, so we have done it. Then we have to map the creation date. Okay, now remember this, the creation date, we actually had formatted the date. We had this really clumsy format. Now we actually have this in a very beautiful format, that is the simple year, month and day format, and we have mapped it. Now the reason I mentioned is This is because it is clumsy, which is actually not true. The truth is it actually demands in this particular format, that is year, month and day format. As you can see, it is demanding in year, month and day format, and we have mapped it. Okay, so we have mapped the email, the ID. Okay, so this is the client's ID, and then we have the creation date of this particular invoice, or basically the transaction that happened in WooCommerce. Okay, so we can just ignore the day from issue. Okay, the language is English. Okay, so since this is the English code for English, I'm just going to copy this and place it here. Okay, that is EN. Okay, then we have the description line item, we can just ignore it. Now coming to the name, we are just going to click here, and the name of the stuff was something like beautiful ink pen. Okay, so we have mapped it, easy. Then we have the quantity, that's pretty much 1. Okay, and we have entered it. Now the unit cost was something like 450 or something, if you remember. 450, yes, 450 it is. Okay, so we have mapped sufficient details enough to create an invoice. So at this point, let me just click on save and send test request. Okay, so the response is a positive one. Indeed, an invoice has been created. So let's have a look. Do we have an invoice? Okay, so let me just go to invoices. Do we have the invoice of a 450? Okay, so as you can see, this is a newly created invoice. Okay, so let's have a look. So this is the invoice for 450 rupees. Okay, so we have figured out the way to create an invoice for the client who is already present in Freshbooks. Now that's the first route. Okay, now we have to work on the second route, that the client is not present in Freshbooks. So first we have to add him as a client in Freshbooks, and then we have to create an invoice for him. So let me just go back to Pabbly Connect, and let me just click on save. Okay, and let me just click on done. Okay, so we are done with the first condition. Now we are going to work with the second condition, that is if the client is not present in Freshbooks. Okay, so now we are going to work with the second condition, that the client is not present. Now we had worked with an example that a person called as John123 is not present in Freshbooks. So let me just go to the client. Okay, and once again we had just for your convenience, I'm just going to show you that john123@gmail.com is not present in Freshbooks. Okay, so as you can see, it is not showing any kind of result related to john123@gmail.com. So this is because john123@gmail.com is indeed not present in Freshbooks. Okay, so what we are going to do here is, once again, let me just go to Pabbly Connect. Okay, and we are going to make one more attempt. Okay, so one more dummy purchase in WooCommerce, and we will get this data in Pabbly Connect first. So once again, let me just click on recapture webhook response. So we are going to capture the response of this newly created transaction of john123@gmail.com. So let me just go to products. Once again, let me just open this in a new tab. Okay, and once again we are going to click on add to cart. The process is almost the same, but this time we are just going to make a purchase by a guy called as John123 with the email address john123@gmail.com. So let me just change the details, John, and then we have the last name as Mark, John Mark. So these are the details of his company. Let's say he works in Tesla. Okay, the country is India. This is the street address. Okay, so we're not going to change the rest of the details. The state is Madhya Pradesh. Okay, here we are going to make some changes. Okay, so this is the email address john123@gmail.com. Now I have established very clearly that john123@gmail.com is not present in Freshbooks. So John Mark, or with the email address john123@gmail.com, is making a purchase. Okay, so the purchase has been made by a guy called as john123@gmail.com. So let's have a look. Since Pabbly Connect is integrated with WooCommerce, has it captured the details of this guy? So it is showing it is waiting for the data. Just give it 1 or 2 seconds. The data will arrive soon. Okay, so as you can see, we do have the details of John. So this is the email address john123@gmail.com. This is the postcode, this is the state, this is the city, this is the address line 1. Then we have the first name, that is John, and the last name, that is Mark, the company, that is Tesla. So we have got all the details. Now we have thoroughly established that this guy, that is john123@gmail.com, is not present in Freshbooks. Now we have to work with the same filter. Okay, the process will remain the same. Okay, that is, we have to make sure the status is processing. Do we have the status as processing? Yes. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to click on F5 so that this whole workflow gets refreshed and the data of tom123@gmail.com gets removed, and we have the details of John. Okay, so as you can see, the filter, it is showing the status as processing after refreshing it. So once again, let me just click on save and send test request. Okay, the condition is true. Then we have the new date. So this is the new date of the transaction. So this was the date of the transaction along with the time, and we are going to convert into the different format, the easy format, the format which the Freshbook wants. And this is the time in which John made the transaction. So once again, let me just click on save and send test request. Okay, so this is the same date. Okay, now we are going to search for John. Okay, we already know that John does not exist in our Freshbooks, but the system doesn't know it. So we are going to make sure that the system also know that John does not exist in Freshbooks. So we already have the email as john123@gmail.com. So when I click on save and send test request, it won't return the details of John. Okay, so as you can see, now the response result total is 0. This is because john123@gmail.com is not present in Freshbooks. So what's next? Now we are going to work with the router. So we are going to add one more route. Now this time the route is that the client is not present in Freshbooks. So let me just rename this. If the client is not present in, or let's go with absent in Freshbooks. Okay, let me just click on update. Okay, now we are going to work with this condition if the client is absent in Freshbooks. So this was the response total, that is 0. Okay, so our condition would be if the response total is equal to 0. Okay, earlier it was if the response total was not equal to 0. Okay, for if the client is not present, if the client is present in Freshbooks. So let me just click on set filters. Okay, so once again we are just going to click here and we are just going to explore, do we have the response total as 0? Yes, is equal to 0. Okay, the response total is equal to 0. Okay, which is actually true. Okay, the response total is 0, is equal to 0. This is because the client is absent in Freshbooks. So let me just click on save and send test request. Okay, so the status, it is showing as success. The condition is true. Excellent. So what we are going to do here is, now we already established that the client is absent in Freshbooks. We are going to create a client, and after creating a client, we are going to assign the invoice to him. So first, let's create the client. So let me introduce one more window. Okay, and we are going to select the app as Freshbooks. Freshbooks it is. Now in the action event, how about we make it as create a client? Just click on connect. We are going with a new connection. Just click on connect with Freshbooks. Okay, so by default it is showing the account ID as Pabbly. This is the account of Pabbly. This is something we have dealt with before. Okay, so let's start mapping. So we have to map the email. So this is the guy's email. Okay, the guy's email is john123@gmail.com and we have mapped it. Easy. Then we have the first name. We click here and then we have the first name, that is John. Okay, so this is the first name and we have mapped it. Then we have the last name. So this is the last name, that is Mark, and we have mapped it. Okay, so we have the first name, the last name. Did he add any phone number? So we can also add the phone number. Okay, we are just creating a client. Okay, he did add the phone number, and the organization was, I think, Tesla. Okay, the organization was Tesla. Okay, then we have the language as English. So I'm just going to copy this small code because the language will always be English. It's not going to really change. Okay, then we have the notes. We can ignore that. The primary street address was, let me just add the primary street address. So this is the billing address 1. Then we have the billing address 2. Okay, this is the billing address 2. Then we have the city as Bangalore. Then we have the state as Karnataka or Madhya Pradesh, something like that. Okay, we just had added dummy details. Okay, I think we didn't add the detail. Okay, yeah, we do have the state. Also, we can also add the primary code. The zip code, I mean. The zip code was... it has not returned the zip code, or we didn't enter. Yes, we do have the zip code 462023, and the country was India. Okay, I think the country was India. This is the country code. Okay. So now we have to enter the VAT name or the VAT number. We don't have the data VAT name or the VAT number because WooCommerce didn't have those fields. So at this point, we have sufficient details. We have really mapped sufficient details enough to create a client in FreshBooks. So let me just straight away click on Save and Send Test Request. Okay, so the response once again is a positive one. So let's have a look. Do we have a client called as John Mark in FreshBooks? So let me just go to the clients. Okay, do we have John Mark? Okay, so do we have John Mark? Let me just refresh this. Okay, so it will show in a minute. Okay, yes, we do have a John Mark and he works in Tesla. Now what we're going to do here is we are going to assign an invoice to him. And this is how it's done. I promise you this is the last window. Okay, this is the last step. So this workflow was really big, but really fun to build. Okay, so this is the last step. So once again, we are going to introduce FreshBooks because we want to create an invoice. FreshBook it is. Now in the action event, how about we make it as create an invoice, this one, and simply just click on connect. So we are going with the new connection. Just click on connect with FreshBooks. Okay, so the authorization is successful. Brilliant. So we have the fields, okay, customer email, creation date, and all those things. So what I'm going to do here is, this is something that we have done earlier while we were creating the invoice for Thomson Grease. So I'm just going to toggle this to the right, okay, and here in terms of customer email, I'm going to add the customer ID. So let me just show you the customer ID. When this client was created, it also generated a customer ID or the client ID. So let me just figure out the client ID. Okay, so I think no, this is not the client ID. This is not the client ID. Where is the client ID? Yeah, this is the client ID. Okay, as you can see, this is the client ID. We have to map this particular detail here. Okay, so let me just scroll down. We click here, and I'm sorry, this is not the place. I'm going to click create a client. So this is the one, and we have mapped it. Okay, so this was the tricky part. Then we have to map the creation date. Now, if you remember, we have already established the date in the year, month, and day format. So we click here, we go to the third accordion, and this is the date, and we have mapped it. Easy. Then we have the days or days due from issue. We can just ignore it. The language was English, so I'm just going to copy this code and I'm just going to paste it here. Okay. Then we have to establish the name, then the quality line. So the name was, the name of the product was once again Beautiful Pen. Okay, so let me just straight away search for Beautiful Pen. We already know the name, so Beautiful Pen, and we have mapped it. The quality was 1. I'm sorry, the quantity was 1. Okay, and the unit cost was something around 450. So let me just straight away look for 450, total 450. Okay, so we have mapped all details. So once again, let me just click on Save and Send Test Request to create our invoice for John. Okay, so the response is a positive one. So let's have a look. Do we have an invoice for John? So let me just go to invoice. Okay, and let's have a look. Yes, as you can see, this is the invoice for John. Okay, so this is the invoice that we have created for John. Okay, so this is the invoice for John, that is for bill to John Mark, that is 450. Okay, excellent. So the presence of that invoice shows that we have a successful integration between WooCommerce and FreshBooks. Now, before you leave, let me just explain you the whole mechanism in a nutshell. So I'm just going to minimize all my action windows one by one. Okay, so I have minimized this action window. I have also minimized this action window, and I'm going to minimize the trigger window. So basically, this is the whole process in a nutshell. First, you integrated WooCommerce to Pabbly Connect, and you have got the details of the WooCommerce order and made sure that the order status, the trigger was order updated, not order created. Okay, this is because we only want those data when the order is processing, not for the cancelled one and the refunded one or the draft one. So to be further clear that the order status is processing, we have also established a filter. It will only give the data if the condition is the order status is processing. If the order status is something like refunded, completed, it won't give the data. It won't send that data to the next level. So the next level is we have introduced the datetime formatter because we had a very clumsy format. We had formatted the date into a very beautiful one, the human readable one, and this particular date format was required by FreshBooks. So that is why we have introduced this window. After that, you have searched if the client is present in FreshBooks or not. If the client is present, we have introduced, on the basis of this search, we have introduced two routes. The first route is if the client is present in FreshBooks, we simply created an invoice to him. Now, if the client is absent, we created a client in FreshBooks and then created an invoice. So now there's a perfect flow of data between WooCommerce and FreshBooks. Excellent. Now, the interesting thing is, once you create a workflow to integrate WooCommerce and FreshBooks, all you have to do is just sit back and relax while once a order is made in WooCommerce, automatically a new invoice will be created in FreshBooks. Awesome. So not just these two apps, you can integrate a ton of applications and automate your business with Pabbly Connect. If you have any queries, please contact us at admin@pabbly.com. Also, the link of Pabbly Connect as well as the workflow is available in the description box. If you really like this video, please comment, share and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.